Good morning, everybody. On June 12th, Thomas Hurd was sentenced to prison for defrauding taxpayers and exploiting vulnerable Arizonans. He billed the state for patients who were already dead. He billed for children, toddlers, for alcohol dependence treatment that they could never receive. He billed for patients who were incarcerated and could not have been in his care. And last week, a Maricopa County judge sentenced him to 2 years in prison, followed by 7 years of supervised probation. That case is a reminder of what we are fighting. This is not abstract. These are not just paperwork crimes. This is a man who looked at some of the most vulnerable people in our state. People seeking help, people in recovery or trying to be in recovery, families trusting the system to take care of their loved ones, and he saw a money-making opportunity. While vulnerable Arizonans were being exploited and taxpayers were being defrauded, Thomas Hurd was spending that money. What you are about to see here today is the day that his fraud-fueled spending spree came to an end. My agents executed a search warrant on his home, and as you will see from this video, he was living in luxury on taxpayers' dime. So here's that video. Can you turn it up, Kylie? Can you turn it up?
I've never seen anything like this in my life. This is movie stuff. No. He's outside. He'll be in. Okay, I'm with you. Movie. Okay. Yeah. Oh, higher. So is that other one the master, or is this the master? Is this the second room? Second room?
This is the master, right?
No clue. I mean, this is like the size of my old apartment. This is like another.
Yeah.
This is the movie room. This is the movie room, theater room, game room.
So what you see here, so obviously that was video of when we raided Thomas Hurd's home. And what you see here are photos of what we found inside this home, an enormous amount of luxury items inside the home. This is the house that he purchased with his fraudulent activity. These are the cars. So Mr. Hurd bought an enormous number of cars on the taxpayer money that he defrauded. And I can give you a description of some of these. I believe that this is a Porsche. We have a Range Rover over here. I believe the red car in the corner over here is a Bentley, and obviously a Cadillac, a number of other luxury cars. In total, I don't know if I have that with me. Guys, how many total cars did we have? 40. So Mr. Hurd had purchased 40 vehicles, many of them luxury vehicles, using money that he had defrauded from the state of Arizona and that he had purchased as a result of his criminal activity. These are other items that we found inside of his house. You can see luxury bags, expensive shoes, Rolex watches that we believe cost in excess of $50,000 each in some cases, Louis Vuitton, Versace bags, and the list goes on. All of that was purchased at the expense of not just the taxpayers of Arizona, but at the expense of human beings who were not provided the treatment that they needed and that they were promised. Don't know if we have any other photos on that. Okay. Thomas Hurd is now behind bars. But the work of my office, well, before I go on, let me say this. These pictures are representative of some of the sober living homes that people like Thomas Hurd were putting patients into. So you can see the contrast between the luxury life that these criminals were living on taxpayer dollars, Medicaid dollars, and the conditions that they were housing, and that's a charitable word, the people that they were allegedly giving treatment to. Obviously, in many cases, no treatment whatsoever. So the contrast between the way Thomas Hurd was living and the way people in these sober living homes were living, including many, many Native Americans, often, as you know, who were brought down from the Navajo Nation, the Hopi Nation, White Mountain Apache Nation, Tohono O'odham Nation, and put into these conditions. We also found in Mr. Hurd's possession multiple Mercedes Sprint vans, the so-called white vans that these fraudsters were using to go pick up tribal members. And we also found many of these 40 cars in a car condominium. This guy had so many cars, they had to rent or purchase a car condominium to store them in. So Thomas Hurd is now behind bars, but the work of my office in combating fraud continues. And today we are announcing charges against 42 additional individuals and entities related to healthcare fraud. As part of this year's National Healthcare Fraud Takedown, the Arizona Attorney General's office has filed charges against 42 defendants across 5 Arizona counties in one of the most significant coordinated healthcare fraud enforcement actions in this state's history. The sober living home scandal has received a lot of attention, and for good reason, but my healthcare fraud section focuses on much more day in and day out. And the charges that we are announcing today span a range of alleged criminal conduct, including fraudulent Medicaid billing, unlicensed medical practice, drug diversion, exploitation of vulnerable adults, manslaughter, and negligent homicide. Let me tell you about some of what we found. And before I share information on these new cases, I want to remind you that these are allegations. Individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty and convicted in a court of law. In Phoenix, Brandy Lee Deese was charged with fraudulent schemes, medical practice without a license, and possession of prescription-only drugs. Deese, an unlicensed individual, allegedly performed lip filler, Botox, and other dermal injectable procedures using fillers that may not have been FDA approved. In Yuma, Dr. Irfan Fazil and his Bio Family Clinic were charged with fraudulent schemes, illegal control of an enterprise, theft, conspiracy, and drug-related felonies in connection with a racketeering enterprise to defraud access between July 2025 and May 2026, including money laundering and the unlawful possession and administration of dangerous drugs. In Snowflake, Arizona, Lorraine Ferrante and her business Conscious Choices Birth Center were charged with fraudulent schemes, identity theft, negligent homicide, and 3 counts of performing midwifery without a license. Ferrante allegedly practiced as an unlicensed midwife from 2020 through 2025. It is alleged that as a result of her negligence, an unborn child died in utero on February 5th of 2025. She was The mom was 39 weeks pregnant. In Nogales, Edgar Torres was charged with endangerment, criminal impersonation, possession with prescription drugs for sale, and unauthorized practice of a health profession. Torres allegedly performed medical procedures without a license, assumed another person's identity to conduct his operations, and unlawfully possessed prescription medications for sale. At Meadows, Catalina, a care home in Pima County, 7 employees face charges. 1 is facing manslaughter, and the others vulnerable adult abuse. A vulnerable adult patient suffered from an alleged lack of care and repeated falls without care, resulting in their death. In Peoria, pharmacist Michael Jada was charged with fraud, aggravated identity theft, forgery, and 4 counts of sale or transportation of narcotic drugs. Jada allegedly generated fraudulent prescriptions for oxycodone and diverted those controlled substances for personal use or sale. In connection with New Start Integrated Clinic, 19 defendants, the clinic, and 18 individuals were charged with multiple felonies for a scheme to defraud access. The defendants allegedly paid individuals to refer access beneficiaries to New Start, defrauding the program of more than $1 million between January and October of 2023. This is a sober living home case. In Kingman, 7 individuals and Slimming Grace LLC were charged with conspiracy to commit fraudulent schemes, aggravated identity theft, sale of misbranded drugs, and forgery. Defendants allegedly placed prescriptions under patients' names without their consent, administered prescription medications without valid consultations, and distributed syringes filled with unlabeled prescription medications. Also in Kingman, Michelle Alderman was charged with 3 counts of unauthorized practice of a health profession. Alderman, an unlicensed and owner of the Pout Company, provided lip filler services requiring medical licensure. These cases are different in their details, but they share a common thread. People who saw the healthcare system and the people who depended on that healthcare system as something to exploit. The Heard sentencing and today's 42 indictments together tell a story of where Arizona stands. We are aggressively prosecuting fraud, waste, and abuse. We are aggressively prosecuting that fraud, and we have made real progress. And I am very, very proud of our investigators and our team of lawyers in the criminal division, led by Nick Klingerman and Steve Duplessis, and my chief, Jim Cope, and his investigators for all of the work that they've done to prepare these cases. In fact, in the last 3 years, my office has secured 280 indictments related to the type of healthcare fraud that we have discussed today. But the work is definitely not done. As long as there are people who are willing to bill for providing services to dead patients, to steal the identities of children, to neglect vulnerable adults in their care, my office will find them. We will charge them, and we will hold them accountable. So I appreciate your attention and be happy to take any questions that you have now. Yes.
How much money has the state regained?
Out of all of these cases?
All of it.
Out of all of it. Okay. Well, so a lot of the cases, first of all, a lot of the cases that I just described are very new. So those indictments, are very new. Going back to, and I might call upon my team, going back to the sober living home cases, I think it's something around $140, $150 million in that range. We will continue to do everything that we can to recover money, assets, homes, luxury items that these folks are buying, expensive watches, cars, and do that on behalf of the state of Arizona and the victims. To give you a sense, and I hope I can find it here, of what we're planning to do in the Heard case. We are going to be asking the judge in the Heard case to order that Mr. Heard pay around, I think $32 million in restitution. Of that amount, we believe that $8 million of it would come from the house, the luxury mansion, the cars, and all of the watches and luxury bags. So, the problem here, of course, is that, and I hate to go back to what I've been talking to you guys about for 3.5 years, but I'm going to do it. The problem here is that my predecessors, Governor Ducey, and my predecessor, but primarily the Ducey administration, allowed this fraud to go on so long that these criminals managed to get a lot of the money offshore. And when you ignore fraud for years and you allow it to build up to something close to $3 billion, $2.5 to $3 billion, and you wait to start to aggressively prosecute it, and you wait to clamp down on the billing codes at Access so that the fraudsters and criminals can't get at the money, then they are going to abscond with the money. And that is what happened, especially in the sober living home cases. Now, again, since I took office, my team and I have been aggressively going after the money and aggressively going after these prosecutions, and we are going to try to forfeit in the name of getting restitution as much as we possibly can. So, thanks for that. Did that answer the question? And I apologize if I can't answer. Guys, did I miss anything in terms of the more recent cases? Correct, yeah.
The total amount is $140 million you've recovered.
In the sober living home space, we could probably try to get you a number in the non-sober living home cases by the end of the day. Yes.
I know you named a lot of different pieces. How many victims do you think there truly are?
I mean, what? Yeah, I guess, yeah. The honest answer is it's too early to say. We have victims in each, obviously, at least one victim in each of these cases. But you talk about let's take the Botox cases, or the folks who are doing unlicensed Botox, or the folks who are doing unlicensed midwifery. We don't yet know how much of that happened. We obviously know in the case of the Springerville case that there was one woman whose child in the 39th week died because we allege that this individual persuaded her to not go to the hospital. And even though she was experiencing conditions that clearly called for her to go to the hospital. And we believe that unlicensed midwifery in particular is a rising and dangerous problem in the state of Arizona. And we just want to send a message to these folks. If you are practicing midwifery without a license and it causes something to go terribly wrong either for the mom or the baby, we are going to look at the situation and prosecute if warranted. Craig, come in.
You mentioned you put some blame on the Ducey administration, but some of these cases have rolled over in the Hobbs administration too, correct?
I mean, there, certainly, there are some, but, we are prosecuting those. We are going after those. And, we have decreased the overall amount of fraud in the Indian Health Service Program by 92%. So, yes, there's always going to be, criminals out there trying to defraud the Medicaid program. But there is literally no comparison between the Mayes-Hobbs administration and the Ducey-Brnovich administration when it comes to going after fraud. We have the record to prove that we're clamping down on it and we're going to stop it in the state of Arizona. We inherited a nightmare. We inherited the greatest scandal in Arizona history. And I think the Heard case is a prime example of what was going on, which is that these criminals were living high on the hog while they were almost imprisoning these victims in terrible conditions and not providing service. So, I was just actually down visiting yesterday with the chairman and vice chairwoman of the Tohono O'odham Nation. And they relayed to me stories about white vans that had been showing up on the reservation in 2022 and early 2023, just as we were starting this crackdown. And how heartbreaking that was for the nation to know that their people were being brought to Phoenix and treated this way and in a very cruel and callous fashion. Come over here, yeah.
Yeah, I just got a quick question on your first case, though.
Yeah.
It might sounds very tricky, but how many luxury trips and restaurants this individual ended up, going after and spending?
It's really hard to say. If you do want to go back to the slide, look, I mean, obviously a lot. I mean, this is you could hear the shock in the voice of our agents when they got inside this house. But I mean, here's a video game machine that he'd bought. You can see just the luxury nature of the home, and then everything that we found inside the home, the cars. So and he wasn't hiding it. That's what's so unbelievable about some of these cases. They're not hiding the fact that they are making tens of millions of dollars off of by defrauding taxpayers. So, we'll obviously go through this in the case as it goes to trial, we did already. Excuse me, it went to trial. But these are the kinds of things that we are finding as we go along, and it shows how important it is to stop it on the front end. That goes to Craig's question and to what we prioritized when I came into office, and what my team, frankly urged me to prioritize, because and they're the ones, I'm so proud of them. They're the ones that have provided I think something like 32 recommendations to the Hobbs administration to stop this fraud on the front end. And again, I just want to point this out. This particular tranche of indictments is part of the 2026 healthcare fraud takedown. This was a nationwide program. It happens every year, and we did 10 cases, 5 counties, and 42 indictments. And I believe that leads the nation. I believe we are the leading state in the nation this year. We often are. We have a fantastic Mafuku team, Medicaid fraud team here, as you know. And certainly on a per capita basis, we did more of these indictments than any other state. And we'll continue to do that, yeah. How many have we shut down now, Steve?
We've indicted 158 individuals and entities at this time.
Yeah, so I guess the answer would be 158 that we have shut down overall of the sober living home. And that's individuals and entities. Yeah, I mean, they do, and one of the things that we are really working closely with Access on, and want to see happen, is to cull out from the herd the bad actors, and to make space for the good actors, right? Because we know these treatment centers are absolutely vital. I was able to tour a treatment center that the Navajo Nation has established right here in Phoenix. Other tribes want to establish treatment centers on tribal lands. And just in general, we want to have legitimate treatment providers who can bill access on the appropriate codes for appropriate service. And that's really important to maintain that space for real treatment. Yeah.
So would you say the threat of these sober living homes currently is still there, that tribal community should still be vigilant?
I think we all need to be vigilant. Yes. I think the threat level has gone down, but my team remains totally engaged with Access, with our federal law enforcement agency partners, including the FBI, to make sure that these fraudsters are not targeting our tribal neighbors and our tribal citizens. And I think we have to remain vigilant because it is a vulnerable community. But I do think that the hyper focus that we've put in the last 3.5 years has clearly made our tribe safer from this fraud and from these criminals. But I don't think we should ever stop being vigilant about this.
General,
Yes.
thank you very much for today. This is really enlightening for all this information. But my question was, is there any banks who are helping you, working with you for reimbursement, going after these individuals?
Did you say
The
banks?
system, yeah, the
Yes. We work consistently with banks to identify the funds. Obviously, we have law enforcement tools that will help us do this, but oftentimes banks are cooperative. And so we work with banks to be able to identify the funds, then seize the funds, obviously, or freeze the funds in many cases. And so the answer to that is yes. And then, obviously, when we're seizing cars and houses, we have to figure out where to put those. And so we have partners in storing the cars. I mean, my team provided me a list of all the cars that Mr. Hurd had purchased. It's unbelievable.
So in other words, it's going to cost you money to save them.
Well, I mean, yeah, and it goes to, the need, and it goes to my belief that we should be able to seize these assets. One of the, you've heard me talk about this before with regard to RICO and asset seizure. When you're forced to let these assets sit in a warehouse, like cars, or luxury items, or houses, potentially, the value goes down. And why is that important and a problem? It's a problem because we want to get this money back to victims. We want to get this money back to both the Access program, so that the state can give that money out to deserving patients, but we also want to be able to take some of it and provide it to legitimate providers, which is what we did with the $10 million fund for legitimate providers. So the more I have to sit on these assets, the longer it takes to get the money back to victims. And I don't like that. I want to get this money back to victims as quickly as we possibly can before the assets actually decline in value, which then deprives the victims of the money. Yeah, the answer is yes. Nick? Yeah, we'd have to have a judicial order that would allow us to do that. So, yeah. So then we auction them, and then we sell them through third parties. So, yeah, Cameron.
How much of the money goes to victims, how much goes to the state? And if the state or federal government?
So the feds are doing their own cases. So obviously, and they have actually much more liberal asset seizure provisions than we do. We were, as you know, handcuffed by the legislature when it comes to asset seizure to some degree. But that's a great question. I wish more of it. I wish we could use more of it to send directly back to the victims. And that's why we took the step of, I think, taking about 10 or 15% and setting it aside for victims. A lot of it by law has to go back to Access. But that's not all bad either, because Access is then able to reapply that to patients and to legitimate providers. Oh, Nick, did you want to add something?
So we prioritize restitution for the victims. Medicaid fraud, the victim's going to be
The Access, yeah. Medicaid fraud, the victim is Access.
which is
So
75% federally funded, 25% state funded, and the money goes back up.
come back, sorry.
Like, through these investigations, have you identified any other necessary policy changes that would help stop this on the front end?
Yeah, well, we have about 30 that we have delivered to the governor's office and to Access, and I think that they have definitely implemented a series of our recommendations, including using AI and updating their computer systems. Again, the legislature, unbelievably, once again left session without providing additional funding to Access to tackle this fraud. I mean, these are Republican legislators who claim that they are tough on fraud. Well, I don't know how you can say that if you're not actually providing additional funding to my agency to fight this fraud. They cut my budget by 2.5%, and not providing additional funding to Access to upgrade their computer systems, to really sort of identify when somebody is pinging a code over and over again in a suspicious way, and then be able to sort of shut that down on the front end. So come back over here.
Our station continues to get messages about these alleged bad injectors, people practicing without a license, and they continue to report different people and ask if you guys are investigating them. I know we've talked to you about this before, but what would be your message to those people that feel like they have a tip on someone?
Keep reporting it to us. We're doing these cases. We're doing them as fast as we can. Again, to the fact that the legislature cut my budget by 2.5% doesn't help when I'm trying to go after these bad actors. So we need a legislature that comprehends the fact that this is the law enforcement agency that is actively going after these bad actors in the healthcare space. And honestly, I think we need stiffer penalties that are applied to unlicensed providers and to even licensed providers that are engaging in bad acts, and that we just don't. We need stiffer penalties, I think, that would be passed by the legislature. And then we need probably, most likely, additional funding to state agencies like DHS to be policing this. Because, I'm policing it, we're policing it, but there are state agencies that are primarily designated to go at, to make sure that these people are not providing midwifery services without a license and are not providing Botox injections without a license. And those folks are the experts, and we need them to be fully funded so that we can stop it on the front end. And I think that's, a big part of the problem. And so if I could wave a magic wand, it would be, let's get more money for these agencies and my office to investigate these cases. Over here.
Advice for people who are seeking out, obviously there's a variety of services covered in these cases, but is there anything you've seen in these cases that people should keep in mind to avoid getting caught up in these fraud?
Thanks for the question. So definitely, before you go to what you think is a provider, before you go to a midwife, before you go to someone for Botox or for a filler, check to see whether they are licensed. Make sure they're licensed. Check to see whether they have any infractions against them or fines. If they have multiple fines against them already, that's a huge red flag. And if you have any suspicions, if anything goes wrong, please contact my office immediately so that we can take action, so that we can stop these guys. And really today is about sending a message that if you do this, we're coming after you. And so hopefully that message will say to the unlicensed folks, you know, there very well could be consequences and repercussions for you down the road.
Can I ask one quick
Sure.
election question? Can you comment on the ruling in federal court today that permanently blocks President Trump's executive order on election? That just came down with a law.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to review that, but is this, okay, yeah, we'll review it and get back to you on that. Yeah, it probably just happened, yeah. Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it.